Welcome back, fourth grade. We have read chapters 1 through 4, and we're going to pick up with chapter 5 today. And I hope you've had some time to think about Palmer's need to fit in with these people. He wants these friends, but he doesn't always like what they do. And even on his first day of sort of running with the gang, he's realized that Henry's not really part of the gang. He's almost the person that they pick on. So we kind of need to listen as we're going on about how Henry is treated and how Palmer feels about that as he decides if it's really that important to be a part of this group that he wants to be a part of. So we're going to pick up with chapter 5. And I hope that you're in a cozy place and that your shoes are off and that you're all snuggled up somewhere. I wish that you guys were all here with me because I love seeing your reactions when we read the book. So feel free to send me a message on Google Classroom and tell me if you like it or if I'm reading too many chapters at once, because remember, I'm not a technology teacher and we're learning all of this together. So we're going to pick up with chapter 5. He caught up to them at the playground. They were diving head first down the sliding board, stacked all three. "Come on, Snots, make it 4, Beans called. Now, Palmer's mother had told him about sliding boards way back when she started bringing him to the playground. Hold tight to the rail as you climb the ladder. No sliding down stacked. No sliding down head first. But this was a new time. He wasn't here with his mother. He was here with the guys. His guys. Snots, come on. He joined them on the ladder. As the stack arranged itself, he wound up on the bottom. He couldn't take a deep breath. He could feel the shape of his belt buckle in his stomach. He could smell the tinny slide. And down they went. And for the 2-second trip, Palmer felt something more than the thrill of the plunge. He felt his friends above, riding him, clutching him, depending on him. Had the slide been 1,000 feet long, he would have carried them happily. And then they were spilling off the end like potatoes dumped from a sack. Again and again they rode the slide, taking turns on the bottom. The first time Beans was on the bottom, he clamped the sides halfway down and stopped, sending the rest of them tumbling to the ground. A lady called from the swings, "Hey, you kids, no stacking." Beans pinched his nose and honked, "Hey, your old man," as they went flying down again. Mutto and Henry honked too. Finally, Palmer did it, his back to the lady, pinching his nose, getting it out. "Hey, your old man," just before the giggles came, forgetting that he hated the park. And then Beans was pointing from the top step. "Look!" Everyone followed the pointing finger to a kid leaning against the monkey bars, a big kid, chewing on a beef stick. Mutto gasped, "Farquhar!" Farquhar it was, legendary Wringer, the coolest, most feared kid in town. Why was he staring at a bunch of 9-year-olds? Beans called to Farquhar. "Here he is." He was pointing to Palmer, the birthday boy. Suddenly, Palmer understood. His birthday was no secret to Farquhar. He was about to receive the ultimate honor, the ultimate test, the treatment. Farquhar started walking. They followed. Nobody gave the treatment like Farquhar. Palmer knew a kid who had his arm in a sling for a week after. Yet Farquhar himself was maddeningly unpredictable. Some birthday boys he would totally ignore, passing them on the streets as he usually did, as if they were dog poo. On the other hand, he had been known to walk halfway across town, knock on a door, and say sweetly to a surprised parent, "I hear there's a birthday boy in here." Some kids turned into quivering zombies, and they kept their birthdays as secret as possible. In school, if their teacher announced their birthday, they denied it, claiming it was a mistake. They refused to have parties. They stayed inside their house for a month so they would not bump into Farquhar. But there was another side to it. There was the honor. There was the respect you got from other kids. The kind of respect that comes to soldiers who survive great battles. There was pride in yourself in knowing you passed a test more dreaded and painful than any 10 teachers together could give you. Farquhar led them to the World War I cannon. The cannon was on a small grassy hill overlooking the park. Farquhar approached Palmer. With the end of one finger, he pushed the last segment of beef stick into his mouth. Left or right, he said. Palmer had not known he would get a choice. Left, no right. Make up your mind. Left. Left it is, said Farquhar. Farquhar rolled up Palmer's left shirt sleeve to the top of his shoulder so that his entire arm was bare. Farquhar studied the arm for a long time, pressing, feeling like a doctor. Finally, he said to Beans, put your finger right here and don't move till I say. Palmer felt Beans' fingertip on his arm, on a bony part about halfway between elbow and shoulder. Farquhar spat on his own fingertip, rubbed the tip in dirt, and with the resulting mud, made a mark on Palmer's arm where Beans' finger had been. At this point, it was rumored some kids wet their pants. Blindfold, said Farquhar. Palmer looked over the peaceful scene. People playing, walking in the park, the trees, children's shouts. No, he said, but nothing came out. His throat had turned to sand. He coughed, swallowed, tried again. No. Okay, said Farquhar. Don't move. And don't look, thought Palmer. That's what he always heard on the street. If you ever get the treatment, don't look. By the time Farquhar bunched up his fist and stuck out the knuckle of his middle finger, it was hard as a ball-peen hammer and sharp as a spear. Bad enough you had to feel it. Don't make things worse by watching it coming. Farquhar took a position to Palmer's left side. He backed off a step, spread his legs, planted his feet firmly. He crouched, lowering himself. Palmer felt a gust of beef stick breath. Beans and Meadow stood directly in front, grinning as if watching someone about to get a hot foot. Palmer wished he'd asked for the blindfold. Henry was off to the side. Palmer took a quick look at him and wished he hadn't. Henry was not grinning. His eyes were wide as a hangman's noose. Palmer turned back to find Beans' grin wider than ever. Beans had the most incredible teeth Palmer had ever seen. Beans swore he had not brushed them since the big ones came in. At one time or another, Palmer had seen every color in the crayon box on Beans' teeth. Their major color was a dull, yellowish brown fringed with green. Beans and Meadow shouted, "One!" as the first rap hit. And Palmer understood instantly the genius of Farquhar. He understood that Farquhar knew his body better than he himself did, that there was no need to rear back like a baseball pitcher and bring the whole fist, that when the perfect spot is found, the tip of a knuckle fired from a mere 6 inches away is enough. Enough so that Palmer's whole body was sucked into a suddenly new sinkhole in his arm. But Palmer kept his mouth shut. Don't scream, the street had always said. If you do, you'll get an extra. 2! Tears sprang to Palmer's eyes, smearing the grins of Beans and Meadow. Don't cry, the street said, or you'll get 2 extras. 3! Palmer bit on his lip and screamed inside his head, bashed chairs and flung himself against the walls of his brain case. Stop! 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 4! He takes his time. You want it to be over fast, but Farquhar goes real slow. Henry had turned his back. 5! Mommy! 6, 7, 8, 9. Chapter 6. What happened to your arm? Palmer's mother was lifting his shirt sleeve and asking him a question he did not want to answer. I said what happened. The treatment, said his father, coming into the room, and he mussed Palmer's hair. Right, big guy? Palmer nodded. Even nodding seemed to hurt his arm. Right. His father inspected the spot and whistled softly and nodded gravely. 9 hard ones, huh? Right. Palmer stood a little taller. He felt as if his father had just pinned a medal on him. But his mother's voice was strained. What are you talking about? What treatment? His dad spoke for years. It's been a tradition for years around here. On your birthday, you get knuckled once for each year old you are. It happened to me plenty. She sneered. That does not mean it has to happen to Palmer. And she lifted his sleeve again. Look at that. Look. It's a bruise, said his father calmly. Goes away. He's okay, right, big guy? Was he okay? His arm wasn't okay. It was killing him. But what about the rest of them? Give him an extra, Beans and Meadow had shrieked. He's crying. But Farquhar had said no. It was just eye tears. Everybody gets those. And he had carefully, daintily really, pulled Palmer's shirt sleeve down over the wound and said, Happy birthday, kid, and walked off. And in that moment, Palmer loved Farquhar. Was he okay? Sure, he said, and he gave a little chuckle to prove it. Well, said his mother, aiming her voice somewhere beyond the room, I'm not okay. He had those hoodlums here for the party. Beans, said his father. Palmer gladly answered, yeah, Beans was here, and Meadow and Henry. His father wagged his head. He's a pip, that Beans. Hoodlums, his mother went on. And they don't even like Palmer that much. They never pay attention to him. They never play with him. They do now, Palmer protested. They were just waiting till I was 9. His mother ignored him. He invites them, but little Dorothy Grusick, he doesn't invite. She bore down on him. Why not Dorothy? She's a girl. She's your neighbor and one of your best friends. Palmer laughed out loud. Sometimes his mother tried to make something come true simply by saying it. She's not, he told her bluntly. If she didn't live across the street, I'd probably never see her. She invites you to her parties. Palmer was fed up. Why did his mother have to go on the warpath just when everything was so great in his life? He blurted, she has a fish face. His father laughed. His mother's eyes went wide, and then she abruptly changed topics. And the nickname, she said to his father. You should hear the nickname they gave him for his 9th birthday, the Hoodlums. She tapped Palmer on the shoulder. Tell him. Snot, said Palmer. It was already beginning to feel like his. Snots, his dad echoed. Now what kind of name is that, said his mother. Where did that come from? Palmer shrugged. In truth, he had no idea. Beans gave out the names. His own obviously came from his appetite for cold-baked beans out of a can, any time, day or night. Meadow, a mystery. There was no dog in Meadow's life that Palmer knew of, and Henry, that sounded more like a real name than a nickname, but Palmer couldn't imagine Beans letting someone's real name stand, so Henry must be someone else too. Seeing that no answer was coming from Palmer, his mother gave up and walked off. Doesn't have the good sense he was born with. Well, Snot, said his father. Sorry I didn't make it to the big party. Here's a present if you think you can stand another one. He reached into the dining room hutch and pulled out a gift-wrapped present. Palmer tore off the paper to reveal an old, frayed shoebox. He gasped. He knew what was coming, but he couldn't believe it. He lifted the lid. Your soldiers. They're yours now, said his father. They were 27 toy soldiers. They were made of lead, which in many places showed through the olive green paint. They were 2 inches tall, and they were very old. The helmets were shallow, like soup bowls. They had first been played with by Palmer's great-grandfather, then by his grandfather, then his father. Palmer had played with them many times, but only with his dad's permission. He'd always thought of them as the most valuable thing in the house. His dad kept them in a shoebox behind a suitcase in the back of a closet. That is, his father added, if you promise to take care of them and pass them on to your own son someday. Palmer could only nod in wonderment. I can keep them in my room? You sure can. That night in his room, Palmer debated where to hide the 27 toy soldiers. He chose the high shelf of his closet, which he could not reach without standing on his chair. He had to carry the chair and reach up with his right hand. His left arm was useless. His fingertips tingled. At dinner, he had just let it plop on the table and stay there. His mother kept glaring at it. Sometimes his arm felt numb, as if he had been sleeping on it, but mostly it hurt. He found that if he kept his mind busy, he didn't notice the hurt so much. He read a book, watched TV, inspected his presents, thought about the day. What a day. New birthday, new friends, new feelings of excitement and pride and belonging. His mother was wrong about the guys never playing with him. He'd had a lot to overcome, that was all. Being the youngest, the shortest, and his unusual first name. He took lots of teasing there. But that was all over now. He fell back on his bed. He grinned at the ceiling. Life was good. While brushing his teeth that night, Palmer looked at his face in the mirror and suddenly began to cry. He cried so hard he could not finish brushing. He ran to his room, shocked and angry at this unexpected turn to his perfect day. Sobbing loudly, gasping for breath, he plunged into his bed and smothered his face in his pillow. He was not aware of turning the ceiling light off and the night light on. He was not aware that he ever stopped crying. In his sleep, a voice echoed down the long, dark barrel of a cannon. You have run out of birthdays. In the morning, he awoke suddenly to a flutter of wings. And that's where I'm going to stop for today. I think you guys have a lot to think about. That, in a way, Palmer was excited to be included. But in another way, do you want to be excluded? To be included because somebody punches you and you have to take that? It's going to be interesting to see as the year goes on and Palmer gets closer to the age of 10, if he's going to develop the courage to stand up to these people. And I want you to think about the last sentence of the chapter before we stop. In the morning, he awoke suddenly to a flutter of wings. That's my little hint to you about the next chapter. I will see you next time. I miss you guys very much. Don't forget to work on your typing agent at home. Miss you guys. Bye.